Well, this started off as just a quick, let's check and see if this regulator and window motor works in the Suburban tailgate, has descended into complete chaos. So, I have the regulator right there. Motor is there. So I figured out the motor itself does power on and off. That worked fine. So I was looking at, but the regulator kind of got bound up and there was something weird going on. I couldn't really tell what was happening. Ended up taking it all apart and determining, kind of hard to see here. I'm not sure if it's clean enough to tell, but there are two teeth completely gone from this cog on here. So unfortunately, that portion of the motor is trashed. Still also not the biggest deal, simply because I don't have a window to try to fit it to, which means I can't actually find out if all of that will even fit in the space that I have inside the tailgate. The window has to fit under all of this crap, but above all of that crap. And I mean, there's not a huge amount of space under here at all. So I don't even know if that's all going to be doable. First thing I may have to do is come up with something just to make a temporary window, whether that be go buy some masonite or whatever. But make something that I can then use as a window to make sure everything clears it. I may goof around with this a little bit. Maybe I'll try cleaning it up and just piling up some weld slowly and then filing it down. That is a lot of work, really, but it might be fun to try. I'll mess with this a little bit more. However, what the end result may end up being is simply that I move on from the tailgate. So here you can see those two broken teeth. I'm going to just try to fix it, because really I've got nothing to lose and it seems like fun. This is a copper welding spoon that I've ground one part of it down more thinly. You can see how much of it I've ground away. What I've ground away now fits pretty snugly in between the teeth. I don't know if you can really see that very well, but it fits pretty snugly in between the teeth. So I'm hoping that will help me shape the weld as I go and allow me to sort of weld in these teeth and then be able to come back and file it all together. Well, it did work to kind of help shape everything. Yeah, I'm having trouble here. It's hard to see, but it really did make that side pretty flat. And same, where are we? Over there. In between them is not so pretty at all. Oh my goodness, I'm terrible at this, sorry. But I'm going to try to grind some of that, or to file some of that, and see what I can make happen. Like I said, I don't really have anything to lose here, so... what it looks like. That tooth and that tooth are the two I just added. So that one's a bit skinny. That one might be a bit fat. And frankly, the gap between them might be a bit too wide. But hey, for just trying to weld up some crap and toss it in there, not too shabby. I think it's worth trying anyway. It's definitely a little bit clunky as it goes over those teeth, but it actually rolls surprisingly smoothly through them, like better than I really even expected, honestly. This thing's got a big ol' spring on it that's pretty stiff. So realigning all this garbage to catch the motor is going to take a bit of doing, and I think I'm going to need to aggressively clamp it once I get it there. So I've done some research trying to figure out how this thing works and how you're supposed to replace the motor, like how do you prevent it from springing back and biting you and clamping it in place and all that fun. So what I have learned is that before you take any of it apart, you're supposed to drill a hole through the rotor and the frame and bolt it down to hold it so that the alignment doesn't get lost. Unfortunately, I had already lost my alignment. So I think I've got them properly realigned, but on this middle brace, there are 2 stamped lines that I've kind of highlighted in black. On each of these wheels, there is a stamped line. So what I've done is fought with it, and it took me 10 minutes to get it in the right place. But I've fought with it until when this line gets to there, this line is also meeting there. I'm assuming by creating a straight line on those that I have the alignment correct. There's one test I could try real quick, actually, to see if I'm even in the ballpark. Oh, I've made such a freaking mess. Where is my measuring tape? The measurement to what should be a reliably straight line looks to be the same. So I'm fairly confident I've got those in the correct place now, aligned. So I need to drill a hole in this thing so I can stick something in there to keep it from popping apart. I am also just going to mount the motor back up in there as well. Really, I could mount the motor right now, not worry about the hole since I got it aligned. I'm just going to try to mount the motor, I guess. All right. I am pretty sure that indicates function. I can hear just a tiny bit of a wobble, but I think that might have freaking worked. Oh man, that is fantastically ridiculous. Honestly, I really didn't expect that to work at all. I did it mostly for entertainment. And it could be under load that those things will just shear right away. I honestly don't know if I had enough weld heat in there to really grab into that gear at all. So it very much could be that it's not going to work at all. But it's good enough I'm willing to try it. I'm going to try to be quiet, so hopefully this thing can pick up the noise. And there's only 12 or 15 teeth on that gear, so I'm passing those teeth a couple of times through this rotation. I do want to clean up the metal slightly better so that I get a better contact. All right, listening, you can hear a slight wobble. Also, for some reason, down is much slower than up. But still, if you listen, you can hear a wobble. Uh-oh. What just happened? I don't know what just happened. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and call that good. I'm going to move forward with that and call that assembly ready to rock and roll. That gear works, which is awesome. That's another randomly cool success. So I'm super excited by that. So I guess I can start figuring out if there's enough space for this thing to even fit in the Travelall with the motor on it. Then we'll go from there. I skipped over a whole bunch more of the thinking phase, and I think I kind of have an idea of where I'm going. We have now completely gutted that tailgate. Wiring is out. The electric switch for the key is out. And then I also cut the center out that the regulator mounted to. So, over here on this end, we've got that regulator just sort of set down in there. This ruler represents the window glass. If it's slid into these, slides all the way to the bottom, I have these mounts here with a hole in the middle. The glass should come about to the center of that circle there. So that means that at every point, the ruler would have to be able to fit between the regulator assembly and the handle assembly. And the tailgate overall is something like an inch narrower top to bottom than that Suburban one was. So I have less space that I'm working with here. However, I think there's enough space. It'll be tight. It's going to take some careful planning and execution, but I do think it's completely doable, even with the space that I have. Right now, I have the regulator spaced up about 1.5 inches on this side, which is about the same distance it's spaced up over here. It's spaced up that high mostly because it's sitting directly on the motor. Right now, the only things that would be of potential concern for interference is this arm. I also just realized that the channel these wheels ride in didn't actually come on my window. I just went and looked. The window's over there behind the leg. So I don't actually have the C-rail. I'm going to have to figure something out about that. That sucks. Anyway, the good news, I think this can be made to work. The bad news, I think it's going to be really, really hard. So that means it's going to take a while. But if I don't figure out this regulator, then I don't have a functional rear window. If I don't have a functional rear window, I don't have a functional tailgate. And then if I don't have a functional tailgate, then I have to jump to the other option that I'm considering for in the future, but not right now, which is actually turning the tailgate into a lift gate. And I don't think I want to jump into that quite yet. I'm not ready for that, but I hope to do that someday in the future. In order to keep making progress back here, I've got to have a window, or at least a window. So I picked up a big old sheet of hardboard masonite, and I'm going to use that to cut out a panel that will eventually become the template for my window. I'm going to, I believe, have a window cut for this, just out of flat safety glass. So I'm going to now just get that masonite, get some measurements, and start cutting something to shape. I've never done this before. This is a new one for me. I think I know what I need to do. Big thing is obviously goes up into here, goes over into the sides, and then I probably am going to start off with like 5 or 6 inches that goes down into the tailgate here. And then I can easily come back and shorten that if I need to. But that's where I'm going to start. So let's grab measuring tape, start figuring out how big this thing needs to be to start off with. Alright, so with the basic template cut, we need to trace out our actual window. can't actually tell if the top of this window is supposed to be curved, but the back of the hatch is, but this frame piece actually seems to come straight across. But I put a curve in the window, and it seems to be okay as a curved window. Like, it seems like it fits snugly all the way around. So I'm really not sure. So with the window shape more or less fitted, the next thing I have to do is actually make it fit through the tailgate. There's an odd problem that I've noticed. This gap where the window goes, out here, it's 1 1/8 inches from metal to metal. Right here in the middle, it's only 3/4 of an inch. This thing is actually bowed down in. Yep. So that's got a big old bow, like easily 1/4 of an inch right here, if not more, that we need to remove from there. And I think I have an idea how.
Much later.
It's time to really start figuring out what I'm doing about this upper rear window. And I've decided I'm going to make it into a hatch. I'm going to remove these panels, this one here, you can see that seam there, this one up here, as well as that one over there. I'm going to remove those and make them into a frame. And then I'm going to glue the window to the back of that. That's all I'm going to do for this one. I don't think I have to get any fancier than that. Then hopefully I can just put a seal in on the, just basically glue a seal to the back of the glass or the back of this frame, depending on how it all gets done. And that will be my rear hatch. I'll have to build something that goes all the way across to make a bottom of the hatch for it. But again, I'm not going to get super technical on that. Hopefully it's just going to be like a C shape that's this deep and just whoop from side to side. So I may even be able to build it out of a piece of like 1x1 that I just, or 1x1/2 even maybe. So we're just going to get to work on that. Then once I've got the hatch built and figured out, obviously I have to figure out hinges up top. I don't know what I'm doing there. But once I've got all of that figured out, I'll have to figure out how to make it come down, seal to this, and all of the other lock, all that other fun. I have ideas, but I don't know how many of them are going to work. Anyway, for now, the only way I can get these free is by cutting right along the corner here. So that's where I'm going to start. It's just making that cut. Sucks. I made a discovery I was not expecting to make that means I've made this job harder than it needed to be. So it turns out that this panel here was snapped and screwed in. The screws that were holding the weather strip in place were also holding the back of this, being this strip here, in place. And the top was actually just snapped into these clips. I don't know if you can even really see them there, kind of. I don't have a light on me, but yeah, like there's just these metal clips. So that whole panel was just snapped in and then screwed in place. So I didn't really need to do at all what I just did. But, well, Nothing to be done about it now. And maybe I was going to change the shape of it anyway, so maybe it doesn't really matter at all. I think there's a few things that I do have to do here. One, I'm going to have to take off the spot welded piece that I cut off of these sides. I knew I was going to have to do that, but there just wasn't a good way to get at those spot welds. You can see it's all open up in here. So I may have to like just make a 90-degree bend that follows all of this. And basically just or you know what? Maybe I'll just go the easy way out and just like weld in some metal. Just weld in stuff to seal that, and then body putty over it, body glue over it, seam seal. That's what I'm looking for. Seam seal over that to get that taken care of. Another thing I know I'm going to have to do, but I have no idea how I'm going to go about doing it. Is right there. I'm going to have to modify the tailgate. So if we've got this panel up in here, one, you can see the gap on this side is terrible, but that's not really what I'm getting at. Because of what I'm doing, I think I'm going to cut this out, flatten all of this straight across, you know, keep the contour and whatever, but all of this will just continue straight across. So the tailgate will be more consistent. With all those panels cut out, it's time to start figuring out this lift gate. So next up, we're going to take all those panels, build ourselves a frame, and see what we can do to make something that looks factory, but functions way better. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming. Now bugger off.